Jaya Lord Nrsimha Dev. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Srimate Sirasarananda Namaza Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Bhutale Srimate Sirasarananda Namaza Niti Namine Namo Sirasarananda Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasaya Namo Siddha Sarupananda Namahansanamine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prasaya Namaste Saraswati Devam Bani Pracharine Evasesha Sunyavare Vaskachari Satarine Namaste Saraswati Devam Bani Pracharine Evasesha Sunyavare Vaskachari Satarine Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Asariko Bhakta Vrindam Acha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Asariko Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shri Asariko Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nrsimhadev, Nrsimhadev, Jaya Jaya Nrsimhadev, 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 Srila Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Srila Prabhupada, Gurudev, Gurudev, Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Haribol, Namaste. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parirajagasatara, Sadashishimad, His Divine Grace, Jagadguru Siddhasarupananda, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa, Parirajagasatara, Sadashishimad, His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koda Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Prem Sikaho, Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasudeva Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur's World Mission Ki Jai. Navadvita Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna, Gopinath, Shamakun, Radhakun, Giri Govardhani Ki Jai. Vrindavan Ki Jai. Mathuradam Ki Jai. Mayapur Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Tulsi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Lord Nrsimhadev's appearance day Ki Jai. Lord Nrsimhadev Ki Jai. Prahlada Maharaja Ki Jai. All glories the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Siddhaswarupananda Paramahansa Niti Namine Namo Siddhaswarupananda Paramahansa Namine Gora Karuna Swarupaya Radha Krishna Prastayate. For speaking, first off, my respectful obeisances under the lotus feet of my spiritual master, Jagadguru Siddhasarupananda Srila Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Srila Prabhupada is the mercy manifestation of Lord Chaitanya, Gora Karuna Swarupaya, and very dear to Radha and Krishna, Radha Krishna Prastayate. Panchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanan Pavenbhyo Vaishnavbhyo Namo Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who like wish-fulfilling trees, able to fulfill all the desires of the fallen living entities. Haribol, Namaste. All glories to Lord Nrsimhadev. I think tomorrow is his, or Tuesday here in Hawaii is Lord Nrsimha's appearance day, and so in 2 days. So thank you for inviting me to speak on Congregational Kirtan. Thank you very much. And it's very nice to be able to glorify the wonderful pastimes of the Supreme Lord. And his appearance in this form of Lord Nrsimhadev is most wonderful. This is before his appearance, although of course Lord Nrsimhadev is eternally existing in the spiritual world. But before his appearance here, nobody knew of this wonderful form of the Supreme Lord. And he adopted this form, of course, so that he could comply with all the boons that Lord Brahma had given to Hiranyakashipu. And so this is the most wonderful form that everyone was just shocked. From beginning with Hiranyakashipu and all the demigods who were watching, they're just like stunned at this awesome form of the Lord that appeared just for the purpose of killing Hiranyakashipu. So in this wonderful lila or pastime of the Lord, there's three key personalities involved. And of course, the first is Hiranyakashipu, the great demon, terrorized the universe and caused untold trouble to the demigods. The demigods are like the deputed department heads of this material universe. And of course there is Prahlad Maharaja, the wonderful devotee and son of Hiranyakashipu. And he was instructed whilst in the womb of his mother by Narada Muni, and became fully appreciative of the wonderful teachings that Narada Muni was giving to his mother and to Prahlad while he was in the womb. And of course, the third main personality within this pastime is the Lord himself and his wonderful appearance as Lord Nrsimha. So I was going to speak a little bit about each of them, about Hiranyakashipu, Prahlada Maharaja, and Lord Nrsimha. And then at the end I was going to read a couple of, not a couple, read depending on time, verses of Prahlada Maharaj after Lord Nrsimha's appearance. And Prahlad Maharaj was pushed forward by Lord Brahma. Lord Brahma's like, go, try and, because the Lord was so angry after having killed Hiranyakashipu and is garlanded by Hiranyakashipu's intestines. And all the demigods had offered prayers, but they said Lord Nrsimha was still angry. And even Lakshmi Devi, she was too scared to approach the Lord. And so Lord Brahma pushed forward Prahlad. Prahlad, you go and try and assuage the Lord, reduce his anger. So anyway, so Prahlad Maharaj then spoke some wonderful prayers. And throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, so the main source of information about Lord Nrsimha is the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So I encourage you all to please read the wonderful chapters contained within the Srimad Bhagavatam that describe this wonderful pastime of Hiranyakashipu, Prahlada Maharaj, and Lord Nrsimha. And of course, throughout these chapters, there's the teachings of Prahlad Maharaj to his schoolmates, his teachings to the actually to Hiranyakashipu. In fact, one of the most famous verses most often quoted is verses by Prahlad Maharaj. And also the teachings of Narada Muni to Prahlad Maharaj while he was in the womb. So the wonderful teachings. And actually even in the initial chapters, there's very nice teachings by Hiranyakashipu himself. And anyway, I'll speak on this in a moment. So just beginning with Hiranyakashipu. So of course Hiranyakashipu, although he's a huge demon causing all kinds of trouble within the universe, actually he is a devotee of the Lord. So he is Jaya. So there is Jaya and Vijaya. And these were the gatekeepers in Vaikuntha. And the 4 Kumaras, the sons of Lord the Brahmachari, eternal Naishtika Brahmachari, sons of Lord Brahma, who were able to travel throughout the material and spiritual worlds. They went to Vaikuntha, they passed through, and there's one, this is in the 3rd canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, and they passed through 6 gates. There's 7 gates to enter the Vaikuntha planet. So they went through 6 of the gates, and then they came to the 7th gate, and Jaya and Vijaya, the gatekeepers, wouldn't let them pass. And so they were cursed by the Kumars. So the Kumars said, in the Vaikuntha world, there is complete harmony between the residents and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Just as there is complete harmony within space between the big and the small skies. So this is the difference between the sky and outer space is completely harmonious. The sky is resting harmoniously within space. And so in the spiritual world, in the Vaikuntha worlds, Vaikuntha meaning the world of no anxiety, there's all the residents there are devotees of the Lord, and they're in complete harmony with Krishna. Their only desire is to satisfy and follow the instructions and engage in transcendental loving affairs with the Supreme Person. And, so somehow Jaya and Vijaya are there, and they're stopping the Kumars from entering into the spiritual world, and they're completely qualified to do so. So they continue. Why then is there a seed of fear in this field of harmony? These 2 persons are dressed like inhabitants of Vaikuntha, but wherefrom can their disharmony come into existence? So they're questioning, what are these guys doing here? They're not acting in harmony with the will of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, let us consider how these 2 contaminated persons should be punished. The punishment should be apt, for thus benefit can eventually be bestowed upon them. Since they find duality in the existence of Vaikuntha life, they are contaminated and should be removed from this place to the material world, where the living entities have 3 kinds of enemies. So the 3 kinds of enemies are Kama, Lobha, and Krodha. So Kama is lust, Lobha is greed, and Krodha is anger. So these are the 3 enemies of the living entities in this material world. So here these gatekeepers were in the world of duality of I and mine, and you cannot enter here. And so they were not in harmony with the spiritual world, the atmosphere. So they were cursed. They should be removed from this place to the material world. So here, Jaya and Vijaya, the gatekeepers, are cursed. So they immediately begin pleading, no, no, please forgive us, and so on. And then Lord Vishnu appears, and he actually approved the curse. And so Lord Vishnu's, and he explains that it was foretold by Lakshmi, his loving consort. So the Lord, this is Canto 3, Chapter 16, Text 26. The Lord replied, O Brahmanas, know that the punishment you inflicted on them was originally ordained by me, and therefore they will fall to a birth in a demoniac family. But they will be firmly united with me in thought through mental concentration, intensified by anger, and they will return to my presence shortly. So these, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, they're examples of people who become completely absorbed in Krishna, or Krishna conscious, as Bhaktivedanta Swami used to like to explain, by being inimical towards the Lord. All they could do is think of him. He is their enemy, and they're full of anger towards him, and all they can do is think of him. very much like Kamsa, the enemy of Krishna. And all he could do was think of Krishna ever since it was foretold by the oracle while he's taking Devaki to the and Vasudeva accompanying his sister or cousin to to her new home with Vasudeva. And then there's the oracle that the 8th child will kill you, Kamsa. So Kamsa's like, ever since that time, he's constantly thinking of Lord Vishnu, that Lord Vishnu is going to kill him, that the 8th child would kill him. So this is not recommended. We should not be inimical towards the Supreme Lord. But this is an example of how people can become firmly united, as Krishna says here. They will be firmly united with me in thought, so through mental concentration, intensified by anger, and then they will return to my presence shortly. The Lord said to his attendants, Jaya and Vijaya, depart this place, but fear not, all glories unto you, though I am capable of nullifying the Brahmana's curse of the 4 Kumaras. I would not do so. On the contrary, it has my approval. This departure from Vaikuntha was foretold by Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. She was very angry because when she left my abode and then returned, you stopped her at the gate while I was sleeping. So we can take from this how important it is not to commit an offense against a devotee. So as a result of their offense against Lakshmi Devi, the Lord's consort, stopping her from going to see the Lord while he was sleeping. As a result of this offense, then when they, somehow or other, when the Kumaras came, they again committed offense, and then they were cursed. So this was foretold by Lakshmi. So we should not incur the wrath or the anger of the devotee of Krishna. The Lord assured the 2 Vaikuntha inhabitants, Jaya and Vijaya, by practicing the mystic yoga system in anger, you will be cleansed of the sin of disobeying the Brahmanas, and within a very short time return to me. So this is all part of the Lord's pastime, the cursing of the Jaya and Vijaya. In the spiritual world, there are no demons. Sometimes in Goloka Vrindavan, there is like the fear that there might be demons. And this fear adds to the rasa, or the flavor of the loving relationships between Krishna and his devotees. But there is no actual demons there. So for the Lord to be able to engage in fighting with demons, then he appears in this material world. And so this is part of the Lord's Leela Shakti, or his pastime potency. And to have suitable opponents, sometimes his devotees come from the spiritual world and act as his opponents, as with Jaya and Vijaya. So they had 3 lifetimes in this material world. Firstly is Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. This was in Satya Yuga. And then as Ravana and Kumbhakana in Treta Yuga. And these were the enemies of Lord Ramachandra. And there's actually, I think the last time I spoke in congregational kirtan was on Lord Rama's, or on or around Lord Rama's appearance. And there's many parallels between the pastimes of Lord Rama and Lord Nrsimha as Ravana received boons from Lord Brahma that made it so that the demigods couldn't defeat him. So he was invincible. And Ravana, but he didn't seek a boon that he would not be able to be defeated by humans or animals. He thought them to be so insignificant. And so Lord Ramachandra, of course, appeared as a human, and thus he was able to defeat Ravana. And of course, with his army of monkeys and bears, headed by Sugriva and Hanuman and Jambavan. And, so again, a situation where Lord Brahma had given various boons that actually caused a lot of difficulty. And actually, it's interesting at the end of the, or almost at the end of the seventh canto's descriptions of this pastime of Lord Nrsimha's appearance, where he let's go find it here. I've got the verse. So where Lord Nrsimha actually chastised Lord Brahma and warned him, don't give boons like this again. This, Brahma, this just creates too much trouble in the universe, that you give these boons to these people who then cause havoc throughout the universe. So this is in 7th Canto, Chapter 10, Text 30. The personality of Godhead replied, as Lord Brahma made some praising comments to Lord Nrsimhadev about his killing Hiranyakashipu. So he says, my dear Lord Brahma, O great Lord born from the lotus flower, just as it is dangerous to feed milk to a snake, so it is dangerous to give benedictions to demons, who are by nature ferocious and jealous. I warn you not to give such benedictions to any demon again. So this is the Lord Brahma, the creator of the universe, secondary creator of the universe, as O great Lord born from the lotus flower. So Lord Brahma is the first inhabitant of the universe, manifested on the, by Krishna on the, sitting on the lotus flower, who then creates all the planetary systems and all the life forms and all the complexity. Doesn't do it all himself, he delegates. But he's like the big brain. In fact, he has 4 heads, right? So he is the 4 brains, so enough brain power to do all of this and create all the incredible complexity that there is within this material world. But even such a powerful person as this, is being chastised by the Supreme Lord. Don't do this again, Lord Brahma, because this has caused enough problems. Don't give any benedictions to demons. So anyway, so his second lifetime was as of Jaya. Vijaya was Ravana and Kumbhakana. And then as in their final appearance in Dwapara Yuga, it was during Krishna's pastimes, and they appeared as Sishupala and Dantavakra. And Sishupala, of course, as we know, at the Rajasuya sacrifice of Maharaj Yudhisthira, didn't want Krishna to be worshipped as the foremost personality present. And, he had to, according to a previous situation, he had the opportunity to say, 100 bad things about Krishna. And finally, when he said the 100th thing, then Krishna killed him with the Sudarsana chakra. So anyway, so Jaya and Vijaya. So it's like within this pastime of Lord Nrsimha Dev, there's a lot going on within it. It's not like, in other words, these are actually the servant, the doorkeepers in Vaikuntha, sent here as a result of a Brahman's curse with the approval of Lord Vishnu. So in terms of their appearance, they were Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, twin brothers. They appeared in Diti's womb. Diti was the daughter of Daksha and married to Kashyapa Muni. And she was overcome by lust and wanted to unite with her husband at a very inauspicious time. And as a result of this inauspicious time of having sexual intercourse, then these powerful demons were conceived within her womb. And so she was very concerned about this, but then Diti became very happy when she learned that her sons would be killed by the Lord and that her grandson would be a great devotee. So in this third canto, chapter 14, text 44 to 45, after Diti had been lamenting, he says, the learned Brahmana Kashyapa said, because of your lamentation, penitence, and proper deliberation, and also because of your unflinching faith in the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and your adoration for Lord Shiva and me, one of the sons, Prahlad, of your son Hiranyakashipu, will be an approved devotee of the Lord, and his fame will be broadcast equally with that of the Personality of Godhead. So, and with that, they took birth not much afterwards. So actually, even though Hiranyakashipu was such a great demon, he had spiritual understanding. In the second chapter, he says, my dear mother, in a restaurant or place, this is after Hiranyaksha had been killed by Lord Vishnu, and his mother Diti and the sons and daughters of Hiranyakashipu are all lamenting. So then Hiranyakashipu says these wonderful verses. My dear mother, in a restaurant or place for drinking cold water, many travelers are brought together, and after drinking water, they continue to their respective destinations. Similarly, living entities join together in a family, and later, as a result of their own actions, they are led apart to their own destinations. So this is a wonderful verse to contemplate upon. We're so attached to our family members, but it's such a temporary relationship. Just like two travelers meeting in a restaurant, or sometimes you catch a plane and you end up sitting next to someone, so you chat to them. And so this family relationship is just like this, just like that, temporary and short. Well, of course, we tend to think it's all in all. But so here we have even Hiranyakashipu is realizing this, and they're speaking it. The spirit soul, the living entity, has no death, for he is eternal and inexhaustible. Being free from material contamination, he can go anywhere in the material or spiritual worlds. He is fully aware and completely different from the material body, but because of being misled by misuse of his slight independence, he is obliged to accept subtle and gross bodies created by the material energy, and thus be subjected to so-called material happiness and distress. Therefore, no one should lament for the passing of the spirit soul from the body. So these are wonderful teachings by Hiranyakashipu. So even a great demon, such as Hiranyakashipu, has spiritual understanding. So Hiranyakashipu's plan was to be immortal, and he performed great austerity to please Lord Brahma. Then Lord Brahma appeared and gave him all these boons, that he couldn't be killed. So Hiranyakashipu was trying to figure out how he could make it so he couldn't die, because Lord Brahma couldn't give him immortality, because even Lord Brahma is not immortal. So Hiranyakashipu used his intelligence to try and figure out, well, how can I make it so I can't be killed? So I can't be killed in the inside or outside, at night or during the day, by any weapon, and different boons like this. That he several different boons. No, not by a man or an animal. So he learned from Ravana's experience. So anyway, all these different boons that made it so that he thought, okay, I've got it figured out. I can't be killed. So having received these boons from Lord Brahma, that Lord Nrsimha later warned Lord Brahma, don't do this again, then he terrorized and conquered the entire universe. And there's a very nice verse where after he's been killed, then it's commented, Hiranyakashipu had been exactly like a fever of meningitis in the head of the three worlds. So this meningitis is like a disease that causes the brain to swell, and incredibly painful, right? And leads to death. And so of course Hiranyakashipu is compared to like a fever of meningitis in the head of the three worlds. I think. Okay, so that's a little bit about Hiranyakashipu. So then Prahlad Maharaj. So the qualities, Prahlad Maharaj has wonderful qualities. So the qualities of Maharaj Prahlad, the son of Hiranyakashipu, are described herewith. This is in chapter 4. He was completely cultured as a qualified Brahmana, having very good character, and being determined to understand the absolute truth. He had full control of his senses and mind. Like the super soul, he was kind to every living entity and was the best friend of everyone. To respectable persons, he acted exactly like a menial servant. To the poor, he was like a father. To his equals, he was attached like a sympathetic brother. And he considered his teachers, spiritual masters, and older God brothers to be as good as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was completely free from unnatural pride that might have arisen from his good education, riches, beauty, aristocracy, and so on. So these are the wonderful qualities of Prahlad Maharaj, the qualities of a wonderful devotee. Although Prahlad Maharaj was born in a family of asuras, suras means gods, and in front means demons. So, or the opposite, non-godlike. Unlike the other asuras, he himself was not an asura, but a great devotee of Lord Vishnu. Unlike the other asuras, he was never envious of Vaishnavas. He was not agitated when put into danger, and he was neither directly nor indirectly interested in the fruitive activities described in the Vedas. Indeed, he considered everything material to be useless, and therefore he was completely devoid of material desires. He always controlled his senses and life air, and being of steady intelligence and determination, he subdued all lusty desires. So this chapter in the Bhagavatam continues in various ways to describe the fame and wonderful qualities of Prahlad Maharaj and how he is known throughout the universe as a topmost devotee. So not only did Prahlad Maharaj have these wonderful qualities, he was also very humble. So I mentioned that after the appearance of Lord Nrsimha, that Lord Brahma, sort of trying to reduce Lord Nrsimha's anger, kind of pushes Prahlad forward and to try and assuage the Lord's anger. And as an example of his humility, Prahlad Maharaj prayed, "How is it possible for me, who have been born in a family of asuras, to offer suitable prayers to satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Even until now, all the demigods, headed by Lord Brahma, and all the saintly persons could not satisfy the Lord by streams of excellent words, although such persons are very qualified, being in the mode of goodness. Then what is to be said of me? I am not at all qualified." So this is a wonderful example of humility. And in his, Prahlad Maharaj is eminently qualified, well educated. He's very beautiful. He's, aristocratic, wealthy. His father is the ruler of the entire universe. And here Prahlad Maharaj is expressing himself as being so humble. And in his purport was so lowly. And this is genuine, heartfelt humility. It's not false humility. Where all too often, unfortunately, people will express their feelings of unworthiness or being low, but actually they're doing it they don't actually believe it. They're doing it so that other people will think that they're humble. So this is false humility. But anyway, in the purport, Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada then comments upon this wonderful humility that Prahlad Maharaj is exhibiting. And he likened it to the humility of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the author of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. And then he also explained it in reference to Lord Chaitanya's third prayer, with the mood of humility in which one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. So Prahlad Maharaj was educated by Sundara and Maka, the sons of Sukra Acharya, the spiritual master of Hiranyakashipu, or the guru. And so after being educated like this, they brought him before his father, Hiranyakashipu. And Hiranyakashipu says, "My dear Prahlad, my dear son, O long-lived one, for so much time you have heard many things from your teachers. Now please repeat to me whatever you think is the best of that knowledge." So actually he had Prahlad Maharaj sitting on his lap, and he was smelling his head. This is the superior benedicts the inferior by smelling his head. And so this is a loving exchange between Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu, and he's inquiring into his education, the education he's receiving. And so he asks him, "So repeat to me whatever you think is the best of that knowledge." And then Prahlad Maharaj says, "Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu, Smaranam Parasevanam, Achanam Bandhanam Dashyam, Sakya Matma Nividenam." Prahlad Maharaj said, so this is the 9 processes of devotional service. He said, hearing and chanting about the transcendental holy name, form, qualities, paraphernalia, and pastimes of Lord Vishnu. So this is Shravanam Kirtanam. Remembering them, so Smaranam. Serving the lotus feet of the Lord, Padasevanam. Offering the Lord respectful worship with 16 types of paraphernalia, Archanam. Offering prayers to the Lord, Vandanam. Becoming his servant, Dashyam. Considering the Lord one's best friend, Sakyam. And surrendering everything unto him, Atma Nivedanam. In other words, serving him with the body, mind, and words. These 9 processes are accepted as pure devotional service. One who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So this, Hiranyakashipu's question, tell me, what do you think is the best of all knowledge? So Prahlad Maharaja very sweetly explains to him that one who has dedicated his life to the service of Krishna through these 9 methods or processes of devotional service should be understood to be the most learned person, for he has acquired complete knowledge. So devotional service to Krishna is Vedanta, or the end of all knowledge, the end of all the Vedic literatures and the Upanishads. This is the conclusion. Just love Krishna, as Srila Prabhupada says in the Kirtan tape, just love Krishna. Lord Krishna says, just surrender unto me. Savadamam parityaja mamikam saranam braja. So just surrender. Abandon all varieties of dharma or religiosity and just surrender unto me one-pointedly, eka. Man manabhava madbhakto, just think of me, become my devotee. This is Krishna's final instructions in Bhagavad-Gita. So here, Prahlad Maharaja is saying, one who's understands and engages in these processes of devotional service has complete knowledge. And so, of course, Hiranyakashipu became very angry. What? How has this happened? How has this happened that my son has become a devotee of Lord Vishnu? So he immediately starts accusing Sunda and Amaka of, what have you done? How have you are my enemies because you were teachers. So Sunda and Amaka tried to quickly explain, no, it's not us. This is just happening spontaneously. And so anyway, Hiranyakashipu then attempts to have Prahlad Maharaj killed, trampled by elephants, thrown off cliffs, and Krishna protects him. And so Hiranyakashipu was, after failing, he then allowed Sunda and Amaka to teach him again. They said, but Prahlad Maharaj, instead of being influenced by Sunda and Amaka, actually then was able to turn all his schoolmates, the sons of the demons, of the asuras, into devotees. He had instructed them all in devotional service and in the importance of the human form of life. And so this is a very nice chapter in teachings of Prahlad Maharaj, where he emphasizes the importance of this human form of life and how short it is and how much of the time in the human form of body is wasted, and how we should use it to engage in devotional service to Krishna, to make our life perfect. And this, of course, is the first sutra in the Vedanta, is Om Athato Brahma Jignasa. Now is the time to inquire into the absolute truth. And so Prahlad Maharaj expands upon this first sutra of the Vedanta Sutra. And so once Hiranyakashipu learned that, okay, this hasn't finished, Prahlad Maharaj, instead of being influenced to become a diplomat, or is in fact influencing the sons of the demons to become devotees. So once he heard this, he decided to kill him. kill Prahlada Maharaja once and for all. And so, of course, this then results in the appearance of Lord Nrsimha, where he's saying to Prahlada Maharaj, well, Prahlada Maharaj is saying, well, I get my power from the same place you do, from Krishna. Krishna is everywhere. Prahlad Hiranyakashipu is like, well, is he in this pillar? And Prahlada Maharaj is like, yes, he is everywhere. So Hiranyakashipu then strikes the pillar with his sword, and then there's a massive cracking sound that terrifies everyone. And then Lord Nrsimha appears out of the pillar, keeping the promise of his devotee Prahlad Maharaj correct. So in Bhagavad-Gita in 4.7 and 4.8, Krishna says, Yada yada hidamasha glani abhavati bharata abhyutanama damasha tarabbanam shujamyaham paritranaya sadunam vinashaya chadaskritam dhamma samstapanathaya sambhavani yuge yuge. Whenever and wherever there is a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of your religion, Dhamma, at that time I descend myself to deliver the pious, the sadhunam, and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion. I myself appear millennium after millennium, yuge yuge. So this is the reason for the appearance of Lord Nrsimha, to annihilate the demons, Hiranyakashipu and all his soldiers, and to protect the devotees, Prahlad Maharaj and the demigods, and to re-establish the principles of religion. So this is the reason for Lord Nrsimha's appearance day. So he protected Prahlad, and he re-established the principles of religion. And of course he appeared in such a way as to fulfill all the boons of Lord Brahma. Killed him with the nails of his hand, which could not be called a weapon. He was a half man, half lion. He was not a man or an animal. He killed him on the threshold in between inside and outside. He killed him not on the ground or on the sky. He was on his lap. And so he was able to satisfy Lord Brahma's boons. He re-established the principles of religion and Dhamma, putting Prahlad on the thrones, and gave some wonderful instructions. And so thank you very much for listening. And I'll just chant for a couple of minutes up until the end of my time. And Namaste Nrsimhaya Prahlada Maharaja Hiranyakashipu Vakshaya Sila Tankanakulai Ito Nrsimha Parato Nrsimho Ito Yato Yamitato Nrsimha Pahe Nrsimho Hridaye Nrsimho Nrsimha Madhyam Saranam Prapadai Tavakara Kamalavareenakam Abhuta Shindam Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanabringam Keshavaticha Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadish Hare Haribol.
Haribol. Thank you so much, sir. Bhagavat Das, for the beautiful chanting. We're always pleasure to have you and the transcendental knowledge you shared to us. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Guranga. Jaya Jaya Lord Nishingadev. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Namaste. Haribol.
Hello, everyone.
Hope to see you again
Krishna.
soon, sir.